How's it going, everyone? This is George here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Transformers: The Last Night, the fifth film in the live-action Transformers series, once again directed by Michael Bay. And thank goodness this was the last Transformer film Michael Bay directed. And once again stars Mark Wahlberg, Josh Duhamel, as well as Stanley Tucci, Anthony Hopkins, Laura Haydock, and many others, including John Turturro in a brief appearance as Agent Simmons again. And once again, Optimus Prime is voiced by Pierre Colin, and Frank Welker voices Megatron. And in this film, Optimus Prime goes bad because Quintessa, voiced by Gemma Chan, turns Optimus Prime evil and wants to bring Earth to Cybertron once again and destroy Earth because Earth is Unicron, and there's some history tied to the past, this time medieval times. And yeah, this is basically the genuine plot of this movie. This plot's all over the place. So, this takes place after the events of Age of Extinction and like I said, follows the format of every Transform movie. The beginning ties into something from the past to the history of Transformers. In this case, it's medieval times. And the medieval stuff looks cool. I'll give it that. It looks cool. The setup, the costumes look really good. The Dragon Transformer that all these Transformers combine into looks really cool. But then, like, we get into our movie and we find out that ever since Optimus Prime left Earth at the end of Age of Extinction, more Transformers are coming. Autobots and Decepticons are being hunted down once again, and they're acting like it's the end of the world, that times are changing. But then you see on TV things are fine in other places. Polo's going on at some points. The only country that Transformers are allowed to go in and take refuge in is Cuba, and that's where Agent Simmons and some of the Autobots are hiding in. Um, Josh Duhamel's character Lennox is part of this Transformer task force team, and he's conflicted because on one hand he's got to do his job, but on the other hand he knows that they're not all bad. He's worked with the Autobots, and Galvatron is once again Megatron again. He's leading a new Decepticon army, and some of the Decepticons are been imprisoned by the humans. Kay Yeager's a wanted man. He's hiding in a junkyard with the rest of the Autobots. There's just so much happening and so much that's inconsistent. For starters, characters come and go in this film. And at the beginning of the film, we see the Dinobots are with the Autobots again, hiding in the junkyard, and they help the Autobots escape the junkyard when the Decepticons cons are tracking them down. But then the Dinobots don't appear for the rest of the film. Hound is trying to distract the Decepticons. You think Hound gets killed by Megatron, but then appears at the end along with the other Autobots that basically are gone at a certain point in the film. You have this new human character, this kid Isabella, played by Isabella Merced. Sorry if I mispronounced that last name. And we find out she's been orphaned because of a Transformer attack, and she joins Kate Yeager and the Autobots. But then when Kate Yeager has to go to the United Kingdom, she's gone until the third act of the film, where she basically does nothing. It's just characters just come and go randomly in this film. And then we have these other new characters that are thrown in. And Hot Rod finally appears in these films. You have this C3PO ripoff Transformer called Cogman. Man, and they even acknowledge in the film that he's a C3PO ripoff, basically. And he's our annoying Transformer character of the film. Anthony Hopkins is in the film. He's like the last member of the Wiccans, these humans that are allied with Transformers, Autobots throughout history. He's the last member. And we find out Sam Witwicky was a member of the Wiccans. And since Anthony Hopkins says he's the last one, I guess it's implied that Sam died at some point in this franchise off screen, which is kind of sad because he was a key character in the first three films. And looking back, yeah, when these movies first came out, I may not have been the biggest fan of Sam Witwicky, but the character's grown on me throughout the years, and he added something to these films at least compared to some of these other human characters. Although Mark Wahlberg's character Kay Yeager's still fine in this film, But yeah, Anthony Hopkins in the film, and Anthony Hopkins, he's awesome, and a lot of the dialogue that he says, it sounds interesting because it's coming out of Anthony Hopkins' mouth. But if it was said by someone else, like it sounds so dumb because he's given exposition on the history of Transformers, and it contradicts everything from the previous four films because the Transformers helped take down the Nazis, they helped in like the Revolutionary War. Just so much contradiction happening right now. Yeah, like Bumblebee was involved in taking in World War II, and then he's explaining that Earth is Unicron. I get it. At a certain point in the franchise, people want to see Unicron, but then they say Earth is Unicron, and the horns are rising because Cybertron's coming. Which, by the way, they're borrowing the plot from Dark of the Moon of Cybertron coming to Earth. And in Dark of the Moon, it worked out pretty well how it was handled. I liked how it was handled. In here, Quintessa's like bringing Earth to bring Cybertron to Earth to destroy Unicron, and Pangea is the reason why the horns pulled apart and Stonehenge is connected. This plot is so much more bizarre than the plot of Revenge of the Fallen. And that was a film that took a few weeks to write because of a writer's strike. There was no writer's strike when this film was being written. They actually had more time to work on this film than they had Revenge of the Fallen. This film came out in 2017. This came out 3 years after Age of Extinction. Also, with the Decepticons get more dialogue. I like they get more dialogue in this film. They have like a Suicide Squad introduction. When the Decepticons are being taken out of prison, the way they're being introduced, it reminded me of David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Well, not David Ayer's Suicide Squad, the 2016 film, because I know there's stuff about the era cut of Suicide Squad, but we're not talking about that. The 2016 Suicide Squad film, the introductions just seem so similar to the introduction of Decepticons in this film. The character Barricade, as well, who's still in these films. We always think this character gets killed off, but then he comes back 2 films later. In the first Transformers film, this character mysteriously disappeared. He comes back in Dark of the Moon. We think he gets killed in Dark of the Moon. He comes back now in Last Night. That's what I mean. Characters just come and go in this franchise. The little Autobot character Wheelie, he's another one. We thought this character died in Dark of the Moon, in Age of Extinction. It was revealed that his buddy Brains was still alive and was held captive by KSI. And and they used Brains to help rebuild these new Transformers. Brains is not in this film, even though he survived in the previous film. Wheelie all of a sudden appears out of nowhere. Like, how? We thought Wheelie died in Dark of the Moon. Shouldn't they have just had Wheelie be the one that they were using to rebuild Transformers in Age of Extinction if you're just gonna bring him back and not bring Brains back? I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. And the marketing had it where Optimus Prime goes bad, which is a cool idea. It's one of the couple of ideas in this film that I thought was cool. He's barely in the film as a bad guy. It was a marketing plot. It was a marketing ploy, and apparently Optimus going bad brings Bumblebee's voice box back. That's another thing. They bring back the Bumblebee's voice is not working story arc that we thought was solved in the end of the first film, and it was acknowledged at the beginning of Revenge of the Fallen that his voice box is still iffy, but it was never brought up in Dark of the Moon or Age of Extinction. It's once again brought up in this film, and it's Optimus going bad that causes Bumblebee to finally speaks to knock Optimus out, have Optimus come to his senses, which I think is a good idea because Bumblebee's the only other character from the previous films that's been in every film besides Optimus Prime that's still around. So yeah, Optimus's oldest friend knocking him, getting him back to reality is a good idea. But it's just this film is basically proof that the Transformer movies needed a new director at this point. In fact, they should have had a new director by Age of Extinction. I have nothing against Michael Bay. I do enjoy Michael Bay's other work outside Transformers. Like The Rock's one of my favorite action movies ever. I love that film. The Bad Boy movies, well, Bad Boys one that he directed was very good. I like Armageddon. And I like The Island. I still haven't seen his more recent work, but Michael Bay can make entertaining action films. And I like the first film a lot. I like Dark of the Moon quite a bit. But if you look at other franchises that were more action oriented, by the fourth and fifth film, they changed things around. Mission Impossible, Fast and Furious is. I remember Chris Stuckman brought this up when he did his review, and that's a good point. At a certain point in a franchise, if your films are starting to feel stale and they're not getting better, change it up because the Transformer movies are more formulaic at this point in the franchise than a Marvel movie is. What's the big criticism of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? The films feel cookie cutter. They feel like they follow a formula. And it's kind of understandable because a lot of the solo films follow the Iron Man formula, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, but those movies are still good. They're just not unique. But at least they're still good movies. The thing is, the first Transformers film, while I like it a lot, it's not a great movie like Iron Man was. And when you think, and after Revenge of the Fallen tried replicating the formula and it didn't work out so well, you would think they would start changing the formula up a bit. But they didn't. The only time the formula kind of worked and you still got an okay movie was Dark of the Moon. These other movies, it just did not work out. So there's a difference between continuing to follow the formula but still producing good movies versus following the formula and still getting mid to not good movies. Now I know the MCU's got to improve on some stuff, but I'm just talking about the good MCU movies that were following the formula versus bad Transformer movies that continue to follow their formula. At a certain point, you just need to change it up. The final battle looks messy, but in fairness, it feels like it goes quicker than the final battle of Revenge of the Fallen and Age of Extinction. But it does, at a certain point, feel like it's becoming self parody. And then it ends with the Autobots going back to Cybertron to rebuild Cybertron. But then there's a mid-credit scene where Quintessa turns out to still be alive and is looking for ways to destroy the horns of Unicron, which I still can't get over the fact that they made Earth Unicron in this film. But no sequel happened, and because the next film, Bumblebee, is a prequel slash reboot of the Transformer movies, which was needed, and that's going to be the last review of this Transformer series before Rise of the Beast. But just looking back at this film, there was so much wrong with this film, and the humor is not as bad as it has been in the previous films. The humor does feel toned down, but there's still annoying human characters in this film. Stanley Tucci plays Merlin at the beginning of this film, and you give Stanley Tucci a second chance in a Transformer film, but he just plays another useless, annoying character. You wasted Stanley Tucci in these two Transformer films. You have this one character who keeps saying, "No, you need science, physics, and mathematics will save the day, not this hokey dokiness." And the thing is, The Last Night comes out 10 years after the first Transformers film, and it's been pretty much established that it's been more than 10 years since the events of the first Transformers film in the Transformer continuity. You would think that Transformers lore tied to history would not be that weird in a world where there's been so many events with the Transformers, including a machine in the pyramids in Revenge of the Fallen, the JFK moonwalk being tied in with Sentinel Prime ship crashing onto the moon, trans like Transformers Metal and Age of Extinction. You would think that hokey dokiness tied to Transformers, like Merlin, like the history of Merlin, would not be out of the ordinary. But this character is persistent that you need science and mathematics. It's very annoying. Laura Haydock plays this character named Vivian, who's this professor who's also a descendant of Merlin, and she's the only one who can use the staff. Oh my goodness. This is probably my least favorite of the Transformer films. This was the first Transformers film that after I saw it in theaters, I just didn't care for it. I'll be honest, when I saw movies that I have been critical of in this series, like Revenge of the Fallen, Age of Extinction, the first time I saw them, I did enjoy them. I recognized they weren't great movies, but I enjoyed the theater experience of watching them. And even when I rewatch them and I understand they're not good movies, there's still some enjoyment in them. There's really nothing for me to enjoy in Transformers The Last Night. It has a couple of decent performances, decent voice performances. The special effects is better. The Transformers, at least, they actually show the Transformers transforming, and it's not like the KSI Transformers that looks like a screensaver. But this was just a bland Transformers movie. And I rather rewatch Revenge of the Fallen than rewatch The Last Night. Luckily, this film is not as long as Age of Extinction. Soundtrack, its score is still solid, but yeah, I'm glad Michael Bay is no longer directing these films, and I'm glad that they're changing things up with Rise of the Beast. Bumblebee is proof of that. When I review Bumblebee, hopefully it'll be a much more joyful review because I do like that movie. But overall, I'm gonna give Transformers: The Last Night a D minus. Outside of a couple of things I thought were good and promising, this was a very disappointing and not enjoyable movie. What are your thoughts on Transformers: The Last Night? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What's your least favorite Transformers movie? Let me know in the comments down below, and I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe already. If you haven't, please share us with someone that likes the Transformer movies or don't like the Transformer movies and want to hear other people that may not like certain movies talk about them. And I hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.